Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, let's go further into our mini-series of mostly forgotten movies that really should not have been forgotten. And let's talk about a personal favorite of both of ours.
Yes.
The 1997 Kurt Russell, J.T. Walsh, M.C. Gainey, and Kathleen Quinlan classic Breakdown.
It is a classic. Breakdown, yeah. Classic thriller.
It really is.
It's such a small little action thriller that's very, I hesitate to say reminiscent of the 90s because that makes it sound dated. Because if you watch it, it's not really a dated movie.
No, it's really not.
Outside of, obviously, the vehicles in the movie.
I mean, they're definitely 90s models, but...
Yeah.
But no,
it's kind of taps into a lot of universal kind of fears and themes, and delivers perfectly. When I think of small kind of movies like this, that it understood the assignment.
Yes,
right?
Very much so.
And it delivered.
Yes. I mean, it has kind of an abrupt ending, but we'll get to that.
Yes. And it's a movie. It's not a movie you can stretch out all that long.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, it's an hour and 33 minutes long, so it's a good length for this kind of story.
Yes. And Kurt Russell just kills it.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic in this movie.
And it's a good reminder of like him being both just a great actor, but also a great action actor.
Yes.
And it's been a while at this point, right? I think he's more known for some of his action roles from the 80s than the 90s.
Yep.
But then there's Breakdown right here. And he just plays so well against J.T. Walsh, who is such a great character actor, usually in a role that you just hate the dude.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, J.T. Walsh plays that despicable... piece of shit very well.
And then you have, like you said, Kathleen Quinlan, who is just, I don't know why. It's like, there's this and Apollo 13 that I think about her in terms of kind of just average, like loving wife. But then in the end, she proves that you don't want to fuck with her.
Yeah.
She does not forget.
No, she does not.
But she was also in the movie The Hills Have Eyes, the remake.
Yes, she was.
Right, which this movie,
it's another
The Hills Have Eyes are very similar.
Yeah, they're very similar, and yeah,
there's no incestuous kind of mutated
hillfolk.
But there are other there's people that are holding a grudge against the city folk, so to speak.
Yep.
I found there's some other movie references that I was kind of thinking about that are kind of connected, and I'd rather talk about those as we dive into the movie. But yeah, and MC Gainey, which I know
he's always great.
He's always great. We talked about him back in Mighty Ducks.
Yes, we did. This is a very different role for him than Mighty Ducks was.
And we referenced that, right? How Mighty Ducks, that was actually kind of a better role for him. He only really gets angry when they steal his candy.
Yeah.
Also, the movie has a few other actors that we can mention. Maybe as we get into it, say for one, let me bring it up.
Yeah, so I mean, in addition to the ones that we've mentioned already, this has Rex Linn, who...
Yes, he was one...
He seems to be typecast as a law enforcement official in some capacity in most of his movies, which he does it very well. Yes, exactly. He's at the cop stash. He plays that role very, very well.
He's bald, right? Except, he has it wraps around his head, but then the top, just he's completely clean shaven.
Yeah.
Like he
No
shaves
comb
it, keeps
over,
it clean.
nothing like that.
Yep. He's got, of course, the perfect cop glasses to go with that stash.
Yep. And he's always reminded me of Dr. Phil.
I can see that.
Like if they made this guy better than Dr. Phil. A Dr. Phil biopic, I think he'd be perfect for it.
You're waiting for that role his whole life. But the other actor in here that I enjoy, most of the things you see him in, is Jack McGee.
Yeah.
So most of the ones we're kind of both actors now have much smaller roles, basically 2 scenes apiece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Jack McGee is great. I love seeing him and stuff.
Right, obviously, he was in Rescue Me, but also Lethal Weapon.
He's in Coyote Ugly. Not
the first Lethal Weapon, the Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah,
and Lethal Weapon 3. I also recall him from one of my, I wouldn't call it a childhood favorite, but Jungle to Jungle.
Yes.
Which is humorous because just a couple years earlier he was in Showgirls.
Yep.
And there's one other actor that we've actually done was in movie recently, Thomas Kopachi. He was he's got a small role in this, and we noted him multiple times in No Country for Old Men.
Yes, we did.
Where he is the salesman at the cowboy store.
Mm-hmm.
Sells the wool in his boots.
Yep.
And the tent poles.
And he doesn't wear the boots all that long.
No, he doesn't. What kind of tent do you want?
the one with the most poles.
I think it's appropriate because, like, in this movie, he also plays a, he works at, this time it's a bank, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's in a small Western town.
Yep.
Just working away.
Yep.
Kind of a very similar role in some ways. So, but I remember when this came out, I remember seeing the TV spots for it, and I didn't see it in theaters. I was kind of interested in the movie because it's just pretty simple premise, right?
Yeah.
But it looked exciting, and then I forget, probably at some point in college, decided to, I'm gonna rent that, check it out, and I dug it. I know we watched this multiple times together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now so back when it was in theaters, I didn't see any TV spots for it or anything like that, or at least not that I remember. But I did see it in the theater.
Okay.
My mom wanted to go see it, and so she took me with her.
She a big Kurt Russell fan?
I mean, she likes some of his movies. I don't know that I'd say she's a big Kurt Russell fan, but she does enjoy his movies. I mean, depending on the movie. If it's one of the more action-oriented ones, then not so much, but...
All right. So you saw it with your mom. That's cool.
I saw it with my mom in the theater. It's just the two of us. Actually, my sister might have been there too, but I know it was at least the two of us. But yeah, I enjoyed it then. And I enjoy it now.
So I never tire of popping this in.
Yeah.
It's an easy one to pop in because it's short, and it just moves so briskly.
Yeah.
Right. And I probably don't watch it as often as I should because, like, even though you always know what's going to happen, you're always ready to go on that ride.
Yeah.
And it's big kudos to the director, Jonathan Mostow, for that. Who also directed T3, Rise of the Machines. Not as good as this.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Which I think that the movie I think T3's slightly underrated. It's held back because it is a Terminator movie.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't fully feel like a Terminator movie.
Yeah.
It's got Arnold, right?
And it's also following T2.
Yes.
So that's a really hard movie to follow and like be considered good.
But one of the other movies that he's done that you and I both liked, and we kind of referenced it recently back in Crimson Tide, is E571.
Mm-hmm.
So, which, that movie's, what, again, it's a submarine movie, and I think that kind of played a little bit better to his strengths as a director. He also directed Surrogates with Bruce Willis.
Yes, he did.
But strangely enough, this movie was actually produced by like the Italian legend Dino De Laurentiis, who,
this
career dates back forever.
Dino De Laurentiis. Yeah, very, very famous producer.
But yeah, it's not one I see often on a lot of lists, in terms of kind of classic 90s thrillers or underrated thrillers or action movies. And I think it's a shame because, as we discussed, it works perfectly. It fits within its time slot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like it does end a little abrupt. And I think most of the action scenes are done well.
Yes.
I think there's a couple of parts of kind of the final chase that I think maybe are a little bit too slickly produced for the rest of the movie. Which I get, especially considering the characters involved with it. It's just, it's too choreographed for me. I wish it would have been a little bit kind of grittier, a little bit more raw. That just a little bit too perfect for my liking. And we'll get to where that is. But again, there's the small quibbles because otherwise it's an otherwise great movie because it's completely sold by the acting and the pacing.
Yes. Yeah, and other than the fact that 97 had a bunch of great movies, I mean, there's really not much reason for this movie to not be well remembered.
Yeah, I mean, it's Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Kurt Russell.
I mean, I guess this was also the same year that Kurt Russell did Escape from LA. But
yes, well,
But I mean, this is a much better movie than Escape from LA. But yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's a shame that this movie isn't remembered as much as it should be because it's extremely underrated, in my opinion. This is a great movie. It's fun to watch. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It does everything that a good thriller should do.
I always get some laughs out of this movie too.
Yeah. Yes.
Not so much because it's a comical movie.
No, but there's just certain scenarios in there that
this is scenarios that you kind of cheer and you laugh at it.
But then on the other hand, I'm kind of glad that it's not as well known.
Yeah, I get that.
Because it fits into that hidden gem category.
Yes. I think it's one of those unfortunate ones, though. It's like, because it is a hidden gem. And I think a lot of people probably discovered it, kind of in Blockbuster's heyday.
Mm-hmm.
In the late 90s and early 2000s. It's an easy one that you're just browsing the action section, right? You see, Kurt Russell and J.T. Walsh. You read the premise, like, all right. But for whatever reason, it never really caught on as much. And but yeah, I think there is something to be said about some of these hidden gems that aren't quite on everyone's lips or everybody's list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but I mean, I know we mentioned, Kurt Russell's acting and J.T. Walsh's acting, but I mean, it's great acting across the board here.
It is. Like, I mean, again, we've mentioned a few of the minor characters, but yeah, they slip into their roles well, right? They make it believable that they're in kind of this small town, right, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally,
literally the middle of nowhere.
We were discussing this, pre-show. That's it's Western adjacent because it takes place in the West, where there's sometimes like 100 miles between towns.
Yeah,
right. And you just have just a bunch of road and desert. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, the movie looks beautiful because it's filmed in like southern Utah.
Oh yeah.
And so like
there's some great landscape shots and some.
It's kind of filmed. I think it was filmed like near like Arches National Park.
Okay.
So yeah, so you get all that scenery, and it's very pretty to look at. So I thought there's nothing I was gonna make about that, about the that just said it was beautiful to look at. But anyway, I don't know. It might come back to while we're talking about the movie. Okay. Well, Kathleen Quinlan. Like, I know we mentioned her earlier, but like, she, I know she's the focal point of the movie, and we don't get as much from acting from her. But when she's on the screen,
when she's on the screen, she nails it.
She has great chemistry with Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
and it's completely believable that they're husband and wife.
Yeah.
So, and which is great because like he actually ends up playing kind of like an everyman in this movie, which. Like some of his more famous roles, like Snake,
yeah,
you don't get that. Obviously not in Tombstone. Right? Even what was the other ones we mentioned from the 80s? But yeah, it's he fits into it perfectly, and yeah, he sells all of it. So
yeah. Were you thinking Big Trouble in Little China?
I probably was thinking about Big Trouble in Little China.
So it's 90s, isn't it? Or is that 80s?
That's 80s.
Is that 80s?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
1986.
For some reason, it was early.
Like the resurgence lately, which is great. It's like Tarantino. It's like, you know what? They're going to start working with me. Obviously, Stargate was the 90s, and Backdraft was the 90s.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that we haven't done. Oh, it was The Thing. I was thinking about The Thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I love The Thing. So I had no idea he was in Silkwood with Meryl Streep.
Really?
I would say this is our first Kurt Russell movie. It actually isn't our first one because he's got kind of an uncredited voice work in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yep.
So
that's right. It is our first J.T. Walsh movie, though.
Yes, it is. Maybe we should do the Negotiator one day.
Oh, we definitely should. I think
or A Few Good Men.
Now, see, I have not seen A Few Good Men. I think I've seen a few minutes of it, but I haven't seen the whole movie.
It's been a long time since I've seen that. I was actually my wife and I were at a gala at an event last weekend, and we stayed the night at the hotel. And I woke up and she was getting a shower the next morning. I was just flipping through the TV, and I found A Few Good Men on. It's like, I haven't I haven't flipped through a television, to find movies on cable in forever. B, I haven't seen A Few Good Men in forever. Right, and so okay, it was at one of the scenes with Jack Nicholson. We get towards the beginning of the movie, which is, so with Kiefer Sutherland and J.T. Walsh. So it's kind of when he had the full cast outside of Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon's not in that. Not in that scene. But
Now
there's Noah Wiley actually also if we're going to be talking about it. So Which I took your advice and I started watching The Pit.
Oh yeah, that's great, isn't it?
Holy hell, that is good.
It's a great show, isn't it?
That is exceptional television.
Yeah. No, if those of you listening, if you haven't watched The Pit on Max, do yourself a favor and check it out. It is a fantastic show. I'm not usually one for medical dramas and stuff like that, but this one is, it's fantastic.
Yes. It's kind of like ER meets 24.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
It's not 24 hours. It's like 17 hours or something like that.
It's 15.
Each episode's 1 hour.
Yeah.
It's like real time.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough about television. We should get into breakdown.
Yes, we should. So, that being said, as always, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause the podcast, watch the movie, and come back and listen. If you have seen the movie or you just don't mind being spoiled, then just keep on listening. We will be spoiling this entire movie, so you have been warned. And that means we're going to tell you all about the awesomeness that Kurt Russell gets himself into in this movie.
How he gets out of it. He doesn't quite do McDiver.
McDiver.
MacGyver type shit, but
no, he doesn't quite do that, but he does do some Batman type shit.
Yes, and it's glorious.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, Kathleen Quinlan just says, "Fuck it, I'm doing it my way."
Yep.
But that's getting ahead of herself.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Because a lot of you might not have actually seen this movie, so
and if you haven't, I highly recommend watching it.
Yes. Again, it's 90 minutes, so it's a quick, easy watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was thinking about this though. So now that we're getting into it and talking about the scenery, right? The movie actually kind of opens a little like The Shining.
It does. I was thinking the same thing. I was going to bring that same
because
point
that's
up.
one of the things when we're doing a Shining episode. It's like we're just talking about the famous kind of panning of the car driving up the mountains.
But I do like what they did with this one though, because it's not just watching the car drive through the mountains like in The Shining, but they're sort of showing brief glimpses of it. Then they're jumping to a road map.
Yes, exactly.
And they're just going back and forth kind of between that,
cutting between the two, and the car, it's a bright red Jeep, like Grand Cherokee.
Yeah,
like, if you know the '90s Jeep Grand Cherokee, you know exactly the car we're talking about. And it's like brand new, which we'll find out about. Yeah, it's just some of it's some close-ups of them on the road. Others is really more like the helicopter, bird's eye view of it. And it's cutting in. It's like a black map.
Yeah,
right. And the music is, it's kind of intense music. It's kind of got deep bass. And in some ways, we mentioned earlier about like The Hills Have Eyes. You could almost see this being like the intro to The Hills Have Eyes, also, because it's it's foreboding type music.
Yes,
like if you had anything about what this movie was going to be about,
just hearing that music along with watching the car drive,
and you're thinking, oh, this movie's like, so
this isn't going to be a happy story,
right?
This isn't going to be a happy road trip.
For that, you need to pop in the Tom Green classic,
Road Trip.
Tom Green does not go on a road trip in that movie,
no,
but he tells the story of a road trip.
Yes, he does.
I love that movie too.
Yeah, that one's great.
Strangely enough, there was no snakes in this movie. There is a snake in Road Trip.
There is.
Anyway, so finally, we kind of cut off from the credits, and we're actually kind of getting inside the Jeep now. And Kurt Russell's driving, right? And I don't even have his name brought up. Silly me.
Jeff Taylor.
That's his character name.
And then Kathleen Quinlan plays Amy Taylor, his wife, and she's in the passenger seat.
She's in the passenger seat. She's falling asleep. So she's falling asleep, right? And you get the impression that it's probably kind of early in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like how like they again it sets up that it's like in the desert and it's out in the middle of nowhere. But they don't tell you the exact state right away.
Yeah.
Like we'll see some license plates later, but you just know they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. And they've clearly chosen the back roads to go. Like they're not taking the interstate. They're taking the back roads. Not the dirt roads, but like the old US routes, right? And so he's kind of getting a little sleepy and he's trying to reach back, right, for his coffee cup, right? And she's
takes
asleep,
his eyes off the road for just a second.
Yeah, because like he zooms, he scans ahead. Obviously, there's no car right in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
There is no car coming the other direction, and it's kind of at this point, he has like a little bit of a straightaway. There's no big curves coming through, right? And so just a second, like most people would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's fumbling around for it, and then he turns back on the road, and this big beat up pickup truck just kind of slowly pulls out.
F-150 pulls out in front of him, and he swerves to miss it, and the truck starts honking, and that wakes up Amy.
Yep. And then he looks in the mirror, and some guy's yelling out the window, "Asshole!" And he's like, "What?" Like it's like, and he just says like, "Some jerk just pulled out in front of me on the road."
Mm-hmm. He's like, right? I took my eyes off the road for 1 second, but still. So there was nobody there.
She convinces him that the next stop, we should pull off the road and get some air, and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little Texaco kind of
it's a little gas station,
service station. It's it's middle of nowhere. It's again, it's not the interstate, but it's one of the major U.S. routes, so it's probably get a little bit of traffic, so it's stocked well enough for travelers.
Yeah. So while Kurt Russell, stays out, gets some gas, put some oil in the Jeep, then Amy goes inside to get some snacks. And while he's at the pump, guess who pulls up but Mr. F-150.
Right. So and when we see at it, right, it's one of those ones that's it's like 8 pumps, right, at this service station, right? Like you have just 2 rows, right, and then you have the front and the back, right? And so he's on one side, on the inside. He's got his hood up too, right? He's checking his oil. Yeah,
because he's putting a quart of oil in,
right? And then on the other inside, there's another truck that's kind of blocking the other side. And when that pulls away, right, they see the other beat up F-150 pull up, and and he kind of recognizes it, and he's not going to say anything. He's just going to go about his business, right?
Yep. And then we see MC Gainey get out of the F-150.
He has other ideas.
He's playing Earl, and he starts berating Jeff.
Well, first he's asking questions about the trucks. Like he's run for the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, he's going on. Hey, that's a nice Jeep you got here. It's
and it's played perfectly here by Kurt Russell though.
Yeah,
he feels the tension that's coming off.
Yeah, he feels the tension,
right?
But he's trying
to be nice about it, and he's afraid about what might happen.
Yeah, so he's like, well, I mean, it's a nice car, but I think out here you need a rig like yours. He's like, why would you want that piece of shit when you can have this?
I love it. I mean, it's the classic MC Gainey like facial hair on this too.
Yeah,
right. It's just such a terrific look. I mean, they nail the details of all these
cowboy hat. He's got the handlebar
costumes to their haircuts, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So
so he's like,
he's yelling at him. He looks back in the truck. He sees this other guy in there, this older guy with a white beard. That's Deke.
Yeah, no, Deke is the son. Deke
Deke's the son. Oh, it is. That's right. Deke is the son. It's is it Al? Yeah, Al.
Yeah, that's Al. So Al's in the passenger seat of the truck. But yeah, then MC Gainey, he kind of changes the tone of the conversation.
Oh yes, very quickly.
Where he's like, well, actually what you need out here is a CB. But if you're going to have a CB, you need a handle. I suggest yours should be shit for brains. Because of what you pulled back there. And then he just starts berating him. And then
he's like, well, and he's like, well, you pulled out in front of me. He's like, I did no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and Kurt Russell's trying not to start a fight with this guy. I mean, right there, it's MC Gainey.
Yeah.
Like, he's playing it smart, but.
But at the same time, Kurt Russell is Snake Plissken. So.
MC Gainey finds out the hard way about that later.
So.
Well, not MC Gainey. Anyway, go on.
Then we have Amy comes out. And
she's got snacks, like you said.
She's got a bag of snacks. And so MC Gainey takes that opportunity to go ahead and go inside.
And he greets her.
He greets her.
You should watch out he drive with.
Yeah. And she's like, who's that? So what's that all about? And he's like, oh, that's the guy in the truck.
And then she offers to drive, right? And he says, no, I got this. Right? So they get in and they drive off. So there's other details here that there is in the background, there is a big rig.
Yeah.
That's kind of parked on the side of the convenience store part of the gas station.
Oh, right? And by the way, this is also when we get our first glimpse of the license plate on the Jeep. And it's a Massachusetts plate. So we know that they've been driving for a while.
They have been. And I think it's Texas plates on the F-150. Even though I think most of the movie takes place probably in Arizona or Utah, in that Four Corners area.
Yeah,
but yes, no, it's Massachusetts place. It's perfect. Yeah, and again, the back of their car is filled. They even have a little luggage rack on the top of their thing with a couple suitcases.
I commented on this time when I was watching it earlier. How much were they packing for this trip? Because the back of the Jeep was full. It was full of suitcases. You could see them behind their seats when they were driving. Then there's also, they had another few suitcases on top on the luggage rack. So, how long were they going to be gone?
Well, no, they're moving out there.
Are they moving out there?
Yes.
Okay.
So they mentioned that. I think they kind of get into that as they're talking within the next section.
Okay, then that makes sense then that they have so much luggage.
Yes. Which would be interesting because, if it was just a trip, it's mostly luggage, not stuff like skis or camping equipment. Yeah. Because some people might go out for that, right? Especially in that area of the country. So.
I guess if they were moving, then I guess it would have made sense for them to have a trailer or something like that too.
Right.
But.
Yeah. Depends what they want to move.
Maybe they had a moving truck that had already, gone out there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't explain what his job is or what they do, but obviously they got fully loaded Jeep, brand new, and they're probably in their.
It's even got a CD player,
mid to late 40s, right? You don't get the impression that they have kids.
Yeah.
Right, and so they probably saved up quite a bit of money and are living fairly comfortably. Right. He even, as we'll discover, he even has a cell phone.
Yeah.
Which,
and in the 90s,
mid to late 90s, not everyone, it's not the big brick at that point, right? But still not one that most people would have.
Yeah.
So they're driving along, they're discussing things, and then she brings out the snacks that she has, and she's got a moon pie,
snowballs,
right? And then
some donuts.
Yes, it's like the snowballs and the donuts. It's the like the powdered sugar
Yeah,
donuts
powdered sugar donuts.
that come like 4 or 5 10 packs, something like that, right?
Yeah, and
it's a contest on there.
you can win if you enter the contest. You can win your choice of either $90,000 or 90,000 donuts. And then she's like, "Well, what do you do with 90,000 donuts?" and and Kurt Russell, comments on selling for 30 cents a piece and pay off this car.
And, they chuckle. You can tell he's still like also like a little bit unnerved about what happened.
Yeah,
because like like almost getting
understandably.
in an accident like that full speed, that's enough to unsettle
Yeah.
you. And then when the guy kind of basically follows you to a gas station,
I mean, and then starts getting real aggressive with you,
and you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't know anybody.
Yeah. So I mean, he had an adrenaline dump, definitely, and so now he's dealing with that.
Yes. So, and the donuts in the 90,000 are very important.
Yes.
Plot point.
Yes.
So, which we'll get to shortly. So, the drive-in, all of a sudden, all his like warning lights start just popping up.
All the dashboard lights just start going on,
and all of a sudden he starts losing his power
and
steering, and the electrical system starts shutting down, right? And it just slowly stalls out on the road, right? And he can't get anything
luckily,
going on.
it's one of those back roads because there's not any traffic. So
yeah, right.
They stop in the middle of the road, and there's not really any immediate, threat of getting hit.
And he's able to get out, the Jeep, and then he pops the hood, and he's looking at it, and he doesn't see anything that's wrong with it, right?
Yeah.
And so he's confused, and he's trying to call someone on the phone, and to get, but again, in the middle of nowhere,
there's no reception.
Even today, there might not be reception where they are. Yeah, maybe one of the few areas where you get nothing.
And I mean, back then, there were very few areas, really only around like major cities and stuff, where you could actually get cell reception.
So. And then finally, Amy decides, she's talking, and then she sees kind of a car coming up, on the horizon a bit. So she kind of steps out to the other lane and kind of puts out her thumb and starts waving them down. And then, right? And then
it's the
she
F-150.
sees that it's not really going to slow down, and he realizes it's the truck.
And
they just speed on by, honking at him.
Yep. And then there's a curve up a little bit in the distance.
Probably like half a mile maybe up the road.
Go up there, and there's a little side, a little shoulder there that they sort of get turned around on, and they turn around to face them, and they just sit there about a half a mile or so away.
And Amy and Jeff, they're looking at this and they're confused. Like, what are they doing?
And then a semi comes up from behind.
He slows down and gets behind them, and then
Jeff goes around, gets his attention, and
he looks back, and then they drive off. They circle back around and drive off in the direction they were originally going, right?
Yeah. So JT Walsh gets out of the truck, out of the semi.
He's very polite, very friendly. He's got a trucker hat on. He's got a jean jacket on also.
Yep, he's got sunglasses. He comes out and, seems very friendly. Asks him, what's wrong? So he's like, oh, the car just stopped working. And he's like, hey, let me help you push it off the side of the road. And so, they get it pushed, and he's explaining to him, well, is it brand new? He's like, yeah, it's new. He's like, oh, that explains it. I mean, these things have a tendency to overheat when they're new. Have you been driving it kind of rough?
Pushing it.
And, Amy kind of looks at him. He's like, yeah, you've been driving it kind of rough. Because what we didn't mention was after they left the gas station, he was speeding.
Yes.
He was going like 85,
I mean, it's the middle of nowhere.
It's the middle of nowhere, but Yeah. He was going faster than the speed limit, and Amy commented on that, and
And JT, it's funny some of the subtle things that JT Walsh gets in here, and at the time, we don't get his name yet.
No,
right?
No, we don't get that.
At first, later we'll hear it as Red, but then he gets another name after that. Anyway, but he's like, oh yeah, he's just kind of talking about like, oh yeah, these new models, it's all these, computer chips and all these things. Like sometimes you never know.
It used to be all you had to do was whack it with a hammer and it start working, but now they got all these computers and chips and all this stuff in there. And there's all sorts of things that go wrong.
We find out later he's kind of digging at them for having this brand new truck.
Yeah.
Or Jeep. Right. Anyway.
Yeah.
So and then, what? Jeff, it's like, well, can I use your CB to, call for a tow?
Yeah. He's like, well, I would let you, but it's not working right now. I'm actually headed into town so that I can get it fixed.
It's like, what I can do, though, is there's a diner, Bell's Diner, about 5 miles up the road. I could drop you there. They have a payphone, right? Well, and then,
Did he say the diner was 5 miles?
I can't remember.
Okay, that's right. The town that he was going to was like 60 miles down the road.
Yes.
But I guess Bell's was just a few miles down.
Yeah, there's a big truck stop. He's going down the interstate. The road, this road meets the interstate, and there's a massive truck stop.
Yeah.
Which we will see later.
Yes, we will.
And I think
that
was
later.
One of the things I was thinking about earlier. It's like No Country for Old Men. We had just walls and walls of Stetsons.
Yeah.
In this movie, we have rows and rows of Peterbilts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah. And then, Kurt Russell's like, yeah, you know what? Nah. I think it's kind, but I think you're right. I think it's just overheated a bit. We let it cool down. I'll start right back up.
Mm-hmm.
But Amy's like, and Bred's like, he goes back to his truck. And Amy decides that she should follow him. Like, it's hot. She wants some iced tea.
Mm-hmm. So she's like, well, how about if I go with him and go to that diner, order myself a nice glass of iced tea, and call a tow truck? and Jeff's like, I stay here and cook.
And she gives her the look every wife would give her husband in such a situation.
And then they kind of just laugh it off. And she goes over, and as JT Walsh is pulling away, she flags him down, and it's like, hey, so is it too late to take you up on that ride?
And he said, no, come, like, hop on in.
He's like, what about your husband? Is he coming too? There's plenty of room in the back. She's like, no, he's going to stay with the car.
Right. So they drive off, and he just sits there. Right. And then some time passes. Right. And he's just kind of sitting there in the car. He's kind of chewing on his sunglasses. Mm-hmm. So nothing's happened.
Yeah.
He was looking at his watch. Why hasn't someone come?
Yeah. So he gets out and he goes and starts, tapping different areas under the hood and realizing it's not hot anymore. And he sees something.
Yes.
So he
gets under the car.
So he gets under there. There's some wires that came detached. I said, oh, okay. Here we go. So he plugs those all back in, starts up the car, and it starts up just fine.
And he's like, overheating my ass or something like that. Right.
So he drives on to Bell's Diner.
Yep. And this is just a little ass diner in the middle of nowhere off this road.
Yeah.
I always find anytime I see these in like a movie or a TV show, these diners that are clearly off a road that no one drives on.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the middle of nowhere. It's like, who are the frequent customers here? It's got to be the same people that keep this person afloat.
Yeah.
And like, anyway. But yeah, there's a bunch of collection of some cars in the parking lot.
Especially when the nearest town is miles and miles
away.
So, I mean, that place must have some damn good food if people are driving that far for this diner.
Which is crazy when you walk in and see who's the cook.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, unless like the only clientele for this diner are like people on road trips. You know, they're driving
Which could be
by.
it.
But everybody that's in there seemed like they were regulars.
Yeah. Like I get some of those people that might come in for like coffee in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or a beer in the afternoon or evening, right? Because they got nothing else they're gonna do, right? But the food, on the other hand, I don't know.
Yeah, so he goes in
So
there. Jack McGee is behind the
Jack
bar,
McGee, he's behind the bar. He's not just
behind the counter.
it's funny again. It's small, but like I love everything they've done to convey what this place is like.
Yeah.
Right? You got a pool table in the back,
Mm-hmm.
some tables around there, right? And then they got the bar area, which if you just want your beer or whatever, or if you want your flapjacks or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Like I said, like or maybe in the morning it is burnt coffee. Who knows? And then there's even an actual little, like I said, not just like Bud or Natty Light, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bottle of J&B Scotch behind this bar, right? Which not top chef Scotch, obviously, but kind of better when I might think they'd be serving in the middle of nowhere, right? But yeah, Jack McGee's serving it, and there's several people at the bar and people at the tables, and place looks, they got all the blinds drawn. It's kind of dark in there to keep it as cool as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he just asked, like, "Oh, have you seen my wife, Amy? She's wearing a white Benetton sweater."
It's like, oh, what? A white Benetton sweater.
Of course you know what that is. So then he just calls it, has anyone seen this guy's wife? She's wearing a button-down sweater.
Yeah, he's wearing a white button-down sweater.
But he's kind of rude, though.
Yeah, he is.
Like, I get that he's kind of busy, but, you can take the time to answer Kurt Russell's question.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kurt Russell's like, well, could there be, somebody else working here that could have seen her? And he's like, nope, I'm the only one working today.
Like, well, could there be another Bell's Diner? It's like, I don't think so.
Nope, there's no other Bell's Diner.
And then, then there's this lady at the bar. She's like, looks like she ran off from you, cowboy.
So
he's like, okay, well, maybe our wires got crossed. Like, she comes back, tell her that Jeff said to stay put here and
wait for me to get back.
So he leaves, and now he's driving back down wherever. And
because he told him that there's a town about 20 miles away that she may have gone to, and so he goes to. So he's going to go out and check there. So that's when he tells Jack McGee to if she comes in, just tell her to stay put, and I'll be back soon.
So he's driving off. He's scanning the road, and he sees the truck that looks exactly like JT Walsh's truck, Red's truck.
So he turns off the road he's on. He follows that truck, starts honking his horn. Basically he pulls up next to it. It's 2-lane road. Yeah, he pulls up next to it in the going the wrong direction in that lane, and gets his attention, and then JT Walsh kind of points forward, and there's a Winnebago.
Well, at first he's like, "Oh, I don't know you." And he's like,
"Yeah."
Whatever.
He's like starts waving him on,
and he starts getting a little more indignant about it. It's like, pull over, and then that's when JT Walsh points
ahead, and there's a Winnebago coming.
The Winnebago
coming toward Jeff. So he sees it, swerves around, gets goes off the road, goes around it, comes back, and then drives up in front of the semi and hits his brakes.
Yes.
And so forcing him to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets out of the car. He's pissed. And JT Walsh gets out of the car and he's like, "What are you doing, buddy?" He's like, "Where's my wife?" It's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen you before in my life."
He's like, what are you talking about?
It was just like a half an hour ago. So I don't know how JT Walsh could have thought that after seeing the guy a half hour ago, that he could convince him that he was somebody different.
Yes, I don't get this part at all.
I mean, I get earlier he was wearing sunglasses. So, I mean, part of his face was covered.
I don't think the angle of trying to make the other guy think he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's obviously not going to buy into that story.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think this is like, again, we find later, I think they weren't counting, they're trying to get them to come together, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely a flaw in their plan to try to just pass this off like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, oh, well, I dropped her off at Bill's Diner.
Mm-hmm.
Which would almost seem
all he had to say. I dropped her off at Bill's Diner.
Actually probably covering for this.
Yeah.
Because in later, you can, he could take it any which way. Someone at Bill's Diner is covering this up, or she got abducted there and they didn't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And then they could kind of come in with the rest of the plan later.
Yeah.
But that's not the way they're doing it, right? So he's about to kind of look at that, and then he sees this cop car.
Yeah, coming down the road. Direction. So he flags him down, and he's, being hysterical, right? Trying to tell the cop that this guy picked up my wife, and now she's nowhere to be found, and he knows what happened to her. Meanwhile, JT Walsh is like,
he's playing it cool.
He's like,
here it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I have no idea.
I've never seen this guy in my life. I don't know what he's talking about. Just driving down the road, he starts honking at me, and then pulls me, and basically, steers me off the road, right? So, but
and he introduces himself to the cop,
he's the sheriff, right? And he's a reasonable guy,
played by Rex Linn.
Guy. He can tell that, like you said, like Jeff's hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
That he believes there's like at least the truth, and that his wife is missing.
Yeah.
Right. So
JT Walsh introduces himself to Sheriff Boyd as Red Bar.
Yes. And sheriff just asks, like, do you mind if I look in your truck? He's like, go ahead. Right. So he hops up in there. He looks in the passenger seat, and then looks behind in the little sleeping area there for the truck. Yeah, and he's got a mattress. He's got a little TV on there. He's got a dirty magazine,
tiny TV.
Which, I mean, yeah.
In the 90s, a little portable TV like that was, essential for
a 2-inch screen.
But yeah, it's just this little tiny TV. And he goes and he opens up the trailer, and all it's in there is some boxes, some suitcases.
It's basically just personal effects of Red. At least that's what Red says, right? Yeah. And they close it up, and he's like, you know what? I think we're done here. And then just like, that's it. And Nakadima was like, there's no sign of a struggle, right? I have no other probable cause to do anything else.
I know where he's going if we need to, ask him more questions and he said, later.
Red's like, I gotta get to Fresno if you don't mind if I get going, right? And he's like, it's like, and it says like, I am sorry about your wife, and I do hope you find her, right?
Yeah.
And that's and then that's the sheriff is like, yeah, it's like, again, like I have his info. Because he looked at both, he got both their license and registration. So like, it's like, yeah, if anything happens later or comes up later, it changes. Like, I can find them.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. It's like, now this is what I think you should do. Is like,
there's a town that way.
My deputy is there. He's a good man. You can file a missing persons report with him. Right. Oh, and he also suggested, like, he was like, "Do you have a fight with your wife?" It's like, I've seen this before, where two people in a car by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
After a long time, they sometimes just get a little heated, and one person decides to just run off a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
And I've seen people just drop their wife off on the side of the road, or their husband, or
two gay guys.
Yeah,
right? It's like he goes through the whole thing. So, yeah. So, well, yeah, just file the report with him. He's going to help you. He's a good guy. right? And so he's about to leave. And I like the little call that the sheriff gets. He's like, from the dispatch, he's like, Mrs. Johnson got locked out of her trailer again. And you look at his face like, oh, I almost wish that dude's wife was back in that truck so I actually could have had some actual action. So they go the separate ways. He gets into town and he's talking with the deputy, who is
Deputy Carver.
What was that?
Deputy Len Carver, played by Kim Robillard.
Right. And while he's kind of asking questions of Jeff is looking at the missing persons wall. And, the deputies just kind of talk about, how people go missing sometimes. And it's like, not saying that happened to your wife. So, and finally it's like, you know what? I got all the info now, right? It's like, listen, like the FBI is not going to touch this for 24 hours. We'll keep our eyes out here to see if we can find her, right? But in the meantime, you should go back to Bell's. Sit there and just wait. Maybe she'll show back up, right? So he goes back to Bell's.
Yeah, goes back to Bell's and walks in, asks the bartender, hey, has she shown up yet? He's like, nope, I didn't see her.
He's more rude this time.
Yeah. He's like, well,
maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
Did she come in or not? He's like, maybe she came in, maybe she didn't. All I'm saying is I didn't see her.
You would think that, like, okay, he could say, like, listen, he's like, I don't know, like, listen, I have my clientele that I see, that I know.
Mm-hmm.
I have people around here, like, I didn't see anyone that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Then that might be at least a more polite way to say it.
Yeah.
Or he could say, yeah, I didn't see anyone here, but people go in the parking lot sometimes. I don't see them.
So when Jeff is getting ready to leave, then he looks over and he sees the bartender looking through order slips. And he gets an idea. He's like, well, if she was here, she would have ordered something and her name would be on one of those slips. So he asks to see the slips and bartender says no. So
which is just
demands that he sees the slips and bartender's like, no.
And I get part of the playing this because they're trying to get you to doubt the bartender.
Yeah.
Is he in on this?
Yeah.
Right.
Which, spoiler alert, he's not. At least not that we know of. Not that's ever actually revealed. He does
pull a gun on Jeff.
But yes, he does. So Jeff grabs the slips from the guy from his hand and he's flipping through them, and then all of a sudden the bartender pulls out a Colt Peacemaker.
Jeff just slowly walks out. Right? He doesn't want any trouble right now. He doesn't want to get shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he walks out and out. He's going to go
down to the payphone that's like right along the side of the road, and he starts 20 cents, not even a quarter.
Yeah, 20 cents. Yeah.
Throughout the 90s, I always just thought about, oh yeah, here's a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Call someone who cares, right?
Yep.
But here's 2 dimes.
Yep, 2 dimes.
Or 4 nickels.
Mm-hmm.
20 pennies. So you can't say, here's 20 pennies.
Maybe this one was modified so it would. You don't know. But yeah, so out in the parking lot, there is a red Firebird, T-top Firebird. And there's this guy, Billy.
He's kind of polishing it and cleaning it.
Played by Jack Noseworthy.
And as he's on the phone, right, he just decides to interject. Are you the guy looking for his wife? Mm-hmm. And he's talking like he's like slow.
Yeah, he's talking like he's slow.
And so then Kurt Russell, before the sheriff's office can answer, just hangs up.
Yeah, he's like, "Yo, you know about her?" And he's like, "Yeah, she was here. Then she got what was it?
Put in another truck.
Another truck and drove away.
Take her up to the other road and a certain point. And then he's just like, they think I'm stupid.
But I'm going to get my truck driving license. My trucker license. They'll see.
It's like he's like, who's that? He's like, oh, they're all in on it.
Yeah, the cops, the diner,
right? And then like the bartender, right? He walks out as they're kind of getting deeper into the conversation, right? And he's just kind of looking at that, and Jack and the two of them kind of look back at him, and he's just like, oh no, I shouldn't say anything. And that's why then Jack's like, well, we could talk to the cops. It's like, oh, don't you know? Well, you're the dummy now.
Yeah, the cops are
in on it. Yeah, right. And so Jeff, he drives off, and he goes up to he's the point where it was like described by Billy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to the end of it, and this is the road's closed. There's a chain link fence.
Yeah,
that is just shut there, and it's like at this bend in the road. There's it's like a big mound or what I guess kind of hill. That's like the road that's built into the mountain, right? He's like he can't get anywhere, right? And so he starts to back up, and and then all of a sudden that F-150 shows back up.
You just can't get rid of this truck.
You cannot get rid of MC Gainey. MC Gainey's a bad penny.
Yep.
He always shows up.
Yep.
20 bad pennies gets you a phone call.
Yes.
At Bell's. But he has a gun too, and he's telling Jeff to get out of the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Jeff's not having any of this. So he gets his car turned back around, and he drives through that fence.
Yeah.
And
we found out why it was closed off.
Earl's having none of this, so he's driving after him, right? And he gets as far as he can, right? And we see it's built in by the side of a cliff, and there's a river, down below, right? And so this one becomes kind of like No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
So he's kind of at the edge there, and I guess a little bit like Dante's Peak.
Yeah.
This is before No Country for Old Men. It's the same year as Dante's Peak. Anyway, so yeah, he's there at the by the embankment before, and he decides he's gonna drive straight down into the river. Earl's
and he's
more exasperated.
Yeah.
And obviously, unlike James Bond's truck.
No, yeah, this Jeep Grand Cherokee, it doesn't turn into a boat. Much to Jeff's chagrin.
Thankfully, he gets out of the Jeep, but now Earl just keeps shooting at him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he's able to get out of distance from the shots and hits some rapids, right? And he finally gets kind of up to this little shore of the river, and and he's all wet, and then you see the little package of donuts.
Yep, floating
down. Remember, $90,000 or
90,000
donuts. Right, so he climbs back up like the embankment, and he kind of comes through like the brush, and he sees Earl. Yeah, what was the other guy's name again?
Billy or Al?
Not Billy.
Al,
right? I was like, what happened? Right? And it's like, he drove into the river. So Al has like this kind of like this box like truck, and there's a winch in the back of it. So the Jeep, back up and out of the river. They're obviously talking to Red on the phone about he got away and this and that. And then someone comes up behind Jeff as he's listening to this. And it's Billy, and he gets hit with the butt of a rifle, right?
Yep.
And he wakes up, and he's the back of the
back
car,
of the Firebird.
the Firebird, right? So you got to think like Kurt Russell being stuck into the
Yeah.
trunk of a Firebird.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of space in this trunk.
No.
Like, he is crammed in there.
So he gets out, and now he sees Red again. So
Well, they open the trunk, and he's still laying in there.
yes, he is.
And they're like, your wife gave us a specific number. You know, how much money do you have in the bank? Your wife gave us a specific number. If you don't give us that exact number, then we're going to kill her. Then we're going to kill her.
Yep.
And
he says $90,000.
no, well, he's like, what? I don't know. I don't know. It's a bank account. I mean, numbers fluctuate. You know, numbers fluctuate. And then Billy, who is no longer pretending to be slow.
Even though he's still kind of a dumbass.
Yeah, he's very much a dumbass. But but he's like, this guy doesn't look like no donut king. And so that's where Jeff realizes what number she told them.
Yes.
And so he says, you know, they put the gun in his face, like $90,000. And
because it's like, yeah, there's no way no man like you not aware of his bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they get him out of the trunk at that point. I like the detail that she basically tells them that he's, you know, I guess some
donut king.
Donut king. He owns a bunch of donut
executive.
It's like, does he work for Dunkin' Donuts? Because they're based in Boston. I
Maybe.
don't know. Some competitor of Dunkin' that's up there. Anyway, maybe he owns a bunch of franchises of Dunkin' Donuts.
But, I don't know. But
regional sales manager. Anyway.
Yeah, so they get him out of the trunk. And they take him over to there's a cliff that's overlooking a small town.
It's a small town, right? Which I think it's the same town he was in earlier with the deputy.
Yeah, I think it was.
Anyway, so there's like, you see that? You know, there's the police station. Billy here just called in an accident that happened at the I-40 interchange. So right now he's busy. The only deputy on duty, right? So there's gonna be no other cop in town, and it's gonna take an hour for him to get back because it's gonna take 20 minutes to get out there. He's gonna wait around there about 15, 20 minutes, and then 20 minutes back. This is the 50 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes out, 10 minutes stay, and 20 minutes back. There's a bank down there. You're going to get that $90,000 wired in cash, and they're going to bring it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They have 50 minutes to do this. Right? And then they get him a Carhartt jacket. It's like, you got to have this jacket because right now you don't look like a man. It's we walk into the bank.
Yeah, I mean, he's all dirty. His clothes are all filthy.
It's a dirty ass jacket.
Yeah, it is. The jacket doesn't do anything to fix his look.
In fact, it enhances it. Like if it was a nice, clean Carhartt jacket, yeah, it would have done what needed to kind of make him presentable.
Yeah,
but no. So they must have dropped him off there, right? Because he's in the town and he goes into the bank, and then he's talking with like the bank manager.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, it's
Calhoun,
Thomas Capacci.
Yeah,
and the guy's name is Calhoun, right? And and he's nervous, and I mean Calhoun sees he's nervous,
and Calhoun's like, "Well, I'm sorry that the maximum amount for a non-customer that you can take out is $500 a day."
Yes.
So we can't do that.
He's asking like, oh yeah, like a credit card, it has like a $6,000 thing. Can you get that advanced to me and such and forth, so forth? And like, no, and right. So, and he's just asking like, are you okay? Right? He's like, he's looking more nervous, and then he just kind of whispers, and he's looking around because before they let him off, he's like, well, Okay, I kind of forgot. JT Walsh described, Amy. He's like, yeah, she's 5'5", about 115 pounds. Five of that pure tit.
Yeah.
Which is not a line I would associate with Kathleen Quinlan. But yeah, that he again, it's the classic, like, yeah, don't tell the cops, don't warn anybody. We got people watching, right? He's looking around, and then he finally, he starts whispering to him. He's like, they're watching the whole town. And if they don't do what they want, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna. And he doesn't say the whole thing, and
Yeah.
Calhoun just like, what? And
then this guy,
he's kind of filling out the forms that he needs to do,
and
to check all his
while
boxes.
while he's talking to Calhoun, then this shady looking guy comes over and sits down at the bench right next to Calhoun's desk.
Yeah, well, he comes in, he's like, are you the manager? And he's like, yes. I heard I was supposed to talk to you about a car loan. And he's like, oh yeah, so you can just sit down somewhere and wait. I'll be with you soon, right? And yeah, he's shady looking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, the actor's name is Steve Waddington. He plays Cowboy in Bank.
Cowboy in Bank.
And then that's enough for Jeff to just cut off the conversation. It's like I almost had an accident. I've been nervous all morning. Like, it's, yeah. So Calhoun goes off. He called to call the bank. They get the transfer. And Jeff has to take a shit, right? Walks to the bathroom. No, he's looking for weapons.
Yeah. So he walks in the bathroom, and he's looking around trying to find something that he can use as a weapon, and all he sees is a plunger. So he picks up a plunger.
I almost wish he used somehow.
Yeah.
Like, he takes off the actual cup of it, right?
Dirty ass bathroom too, especially for a bank.
What is Calhoun doing there?
So yeah, he takes the plunger part off of it, so he's just got the handle, and he's just got the handle, and he like tries to stick it up his sleeve, but that's not going to work. So he just tosses the
hammer. He's like, I don't know about the hammer. He looks up, he sees a katana. It's like, oh,
chainsaw.
Oh,
He's like,
wrong movie.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
That's Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction.
Yes. No. So he tosses the plunger handle aside and goes back out.
It's gonna really suck later when someone backs up the toilet.
Yes.
Because the plunger's been taken apart.
But I mean, both parts are there, so all I got to do is screw the handle back in there, and they can use it.
You have their pants around their ankles. It's the lovely old lady teller.
So he goes back out and sits back down at Calhoun's desk, and he sees a letter opener.
Yes.
Yeah. So he
kind of
grabs it.
Yep.
Grabs that, kind of, hides it, and then he sees a bunch of money bands.
He pockets a bunch of them,
and then we get an exterior shot, and he's coming out of the bank with a bag that we would assume has money in it.
He's looking around, and he's been told just that he'll be picked up, so he kind of just keeps walking.
And then
comes up by it. There's some train tracks. There's a train going by,
and there's a payphone.
Gates lift, and then as he kind of walks across the tracks, the F-150 comes.
Well, there's a payphone first, and he goes.
That's right.
Ringing.
Yeah, it rings.
The payphone's ringing,
they
so he
tell him
doesn't
to keep
answer
walking.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
They tell him. They ask him, how much he has. He's like 90,000. I got all of it, and they're like, okay, just keep walking down the road and get into the first car that stops.
That's what it was. Thank you.
So he goes walking down the road, crosses the train tracks, and the F-150 comes up, and it's MC
It's Earl.
It's Earl. And so Earl, he's still sitting in the driver's seat. He opens up the passenger seat, They're at the passenger door. He's like, put the money on the seat.
Al's no longer, with him. So, yeah, so he puts the money in the seat and he tells him to turn around and put his hands behind his back and he just kind of duct tapes him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And tells him to get in the thing, right?
Get on his knees in the passenger side.
Right. So he's on his knees right there on the floor on the passenger side, right? And he has his back to the door.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of facing.
He's kind of leaning over onto the seat.
Yeah.
And he's kind of facing Earl. And so.
And Earl, he's going on. He's like triumphant.
Yeah. He's looking at the money. He's like,
it's like, you gotta be the dumbest motherfucker yet.
Meanwhile, Jeff reaches down to his sock where he has hidden the letter opener. And he starts using that to try to cut through the duct tape. While turning, he's making sure to keep his body turned so that Earl can't see what he's doing behind his back.
But Earl keeps monologuing.
Yeah. Earl keeps monologuing. And then he pulls out one of the stacks of money and starts smelling it, and he's flipping through
on
it.
top of it.
Yeah.
And so he just
100 on top and on bottom. So he's flipping through it, and he's like flipping through it, and then notices that there's 100 on top and bottom, but everything in between those are singles.
Yep.
And it's got the money band on it for the amount that it is supposed to be. Which, when did Jeff have time to put those bands on there?
Good question.
Because he wouldn't have wanted to do it in the bank because there's cameras and there's people, Yeah. It'd kind of be a shady thing to do in the bank.
It would be. It's a good point. Good question. He did it regardless.
Maybe he took it into the bathroom and did it in there.
I was going to say the bathroom. He took the money back, like I'm going to go back and and maybe he put the plunger back together for them.
Maybe.
And so he's like, what the hell? And that at this point he's cut through the duct tape, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny, and again, he's been monologuing. He's like, yeah, you're the dumbest ones yet. We were able to pick you out so easy with your plates and shiny new car, right? And he's like, next time, don't leave your car unattended with the hood up.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's when Kurt Russell lunges over, just plunges that letter opener chest and shoulder area, right? So they're fighting over the car now, and they're scuffling
and this whole time while they're fighting, Kurt Russell has his foot on the gas, like he's pushing Earl's foot down on the gas. So they're speeding up and they're fighting, and Earl's trying to stay on the road, but
they're knocking in. Some of it's like a very narrow shoulder with a rock wall to the side, right? it's slamming into that. And Russell, Jeff finally gets control, right? And, the car stops, right? And then all of a sudden he's got the duct tape roll, right? That's still there.
Yeah. And Jeff has been able to get a hold of the gun.
Tapes his hands together.
Yeah.
But then duct tapes the hands on his legs.
Around, right? Duct tapes around his legs. And then
he starts duct taping his neck around the headrest.
The headrest on the seat. And
the car at this point, it's stopped. It's in the middle of the road. Right? And then this tow truck stops as he's finishing.
Yeah, he's finishing wrapping him up. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing in there?"
And he has Earl's gun at this point too. Yeah. So he closes the door and he starts speeding off, and the tow truck driver just kind of watches them. He's like, "It's like okay." And then they're speeding down the road now, and now Jeff's gonna get some answers, right?
Yeah.
But Earl's like, "Fuck you."
Earl's not wanting to talk, so Jeff slams on the brakes, and because Earl's neck is duct taped to the. So says his neck is duct taped to the headrest. Inertia makes it so that when he stops,
and his head just jerking
Earl
forward,
keeps going forward.
Eyes bulge.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And then finally he's like, it was like, stop. It's like,
stop.
oh, you want me to stop?
Okay.
I bet this thing can stop on a fucking dime.
He slams on the brakes again. Meanwhile, Sheriff Boyd is driving down the road the opposite direction.
Yep.
Or no, he's
yeah,
it is the opposite direction. Yeah, and he sees this truck driving erratically. So he turns around and flips the siren on, and Jeff pulls over to the side of the road.
Yes, like,
as he should.
Great, excellent. But he has the gun in one hand, right?
So he gets out. He's holding the gun in one hand, and he's like, "Officer, you gotta help me!" All of a sudden, Boyd pulls his gun. He's like, "Drop the gun!" And then Jeff realizes he's holding a gun. So he's, oh yeah, sorry. He tosses it.
Yep.
He throws it off the side of the road.
Get on the ground. He gets on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Meanwhile, doing this, Earl, he's working his way out of his restraints too.
And so Boyd calls him, "You in the truck? Are you okay?" And
like, thank you, officer.
Earl's like, "Thank you, officer. Yes, I'm fine. No need to come in here." He's like, "Don't shoot me." He's like, I'm fine. Don't shoot me." And meanwhile, he pulls a little subcompact gun out of his ankle holster.
Yep.
And he he got the duct tape off of his wrists and his legs, but he just left himself duct taped to the headrest. He just pulled the headrest out of the seat. So it's still attached to the back of his head.
He comes around. Sorry, I'm laughing.
Yeah, so Boyd is trying to get answers out of Jeff. He's got his gun on him, and then all of a sudden Boyd gets shot.
Yep.
And we see Earl standing there with his gun and the headrest from the car duct taped to the back of his neck. And then he starts shooting at Jeff, who gets up and
sound kind of like, there's a small little like ridge right off the shoulder, right?
Yeah, so he runs down there. He's looking for the gun.
Yep.
And
because he just threw it.
Yeah, because he threw it off the side of the road.
Kind of threw it.
So he gets down to the bottom of the hill and he's looking for that gun. Meanwhile, Earl has gotten over to the end of the road and he sees him. He starts shooting at him. And then Jeff sees the gun, but he can't quite get to it. And then Earl gets shot from behind. And it's Sheriff Boyd.
Yep. And, he's kind of bleeding out, and he's obviously in a lot of pain. And, and
so Jeff grabs the gun, goes back up to the road.
Right.
And Boyd, he's able to get his radio and he, calls dispatch. Tells him officer down, or shots fired, officer down. And then he's kind of fumbling over his words because, he's losing a lot of blood.
Yes.
And so Jeff grabs the radio from him and,
get an ambulance over here. Shot. And, he obviously doesn't have enough time to wait around. So, he gets back into the Jeep and
into the truck.
The truck,
the F-150.
Yes. Yeah, and then you hear back from the dispatch, like, who is this?
Yeah,
right. And
we don't see MC Gainey again for the rest of the movie, for the rest of his life. MC Gainey won't be joining us for the rest of his life. Or sorry, Earl will not be joining us for the rest of his life.
I can just see Alan Rickman eating a sandwich as he delivers this line.
Yes. So,
so, I think we got to mention that. What I guess Jeff had heard that one of the rendezvous points was going to be that truck stop.
yeah,
that was mentioned.
Yeah, because he was able to get that bit of information out of Earl.
Way back when he first met Red, saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm going down to that truck stop to get my CB fixed." That's gonna be a meetup point. So he makes it to that, makes it there, right? But at this point, there's APB out on everything that's happening.
On Jeff,
the officer being shot.
Yeah. So,
and he's seeing these cops
Jeff
all over, and there's again, it's this massive ass truck stop. It's just all these semi trucks, right?
Yeah. And so he looks over, he sees somebody dressed exactly like Red.
Yep. And he turns around. It's a younger guy.
Yeah, it's a younger guy with a goatee, and
so it's not him. And he's just looking around, like he's trying to find the truck. He's trying to find the guy. It looks like Red. And at the same time, he's seeing these cops all over.
And then he's
trying to avoid them also.
Then he sees Red in his truck.
Well, he sees Red's on a payphone.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's walking around the corner. Red's on a payphone.
He hears Red on the payphone.
Yeah,
it's like,
so he's kind of.
I haven't heard from Earl in at least 30 minutes. Like, I heard about a cop being shot. Right. It's like, this is way too much heat. We gotta just meet back at the barn. Right. Like, bring her, right, and we'll take care of it. So
yeah,
they so he kind of stays back and then kind of follows him as he goes to
Red
parking lot
to his truck.
And Red gets in his truck. He's driving off, and this is when we get some Batman shit.
Yes, this is when we get some Batman shit. Yes. So Red starts his truck up and he starts driving off. Meanwhile, Jeff is running behind the truck trying to catch it. Ends up getting up next to the trailer and climbs onto the spare tire.
Yeah, there's no tire.
There's no tire in the well, but he climbs into the spare tire well. And
I guess not really a well.
Well, it's a little spare tire holder
for a 18-wheeler.
Yeah. So he's riding in there. And Red, when he gets on the road, there's this car.
There's always a car.
He pulls up next to him.
There's a kid that's watching what's happening.
But this kid in the back seat of the car, he's just got his face pushed up against the glass, against the window.
By the way,
he's clearly bored.
It's a 1992 Buick LeSabre, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Early 90s Buicks.
So,
yes.
But yeah, this kid, he's just like got his nose pressed up against the window. He's just looking bored.
Then there's Kurt Russell just hanging out under the truck. Like, all right then.
So then, Kurt Russell, Jeff can't just stay in the spare tire holder. Spare tire rack. So he starts climbing underneath it, like along the central beam under the trailer. Just crawl, like hanging out of there, crawling or climbing up toward the cab.
Yeah,
up toward the tractor,
carefully as he can.
And so he's climbing up there. While he's doing that, the gun falls out of the back of his pants.
No more gun.
Yep, no more gun. So
all that trouble.
Yeah, he makes it up there,
right? And now, but of course, now obviously he makes up the front of the actual trailer, right?
Trailer. So now
he's got to get out from under the trailer.
So now he's got to climb sideways, like out onto the side of the trailer. So there's that side door on the trailer. and he's able to reach up and grab the latch on it. And so he's got one hand on the latch, gets his other hand on the hinge, and is able to pull himself up. And so he's hanging on the side of the trailer here, and there's a little ladder up toward the front of the trailer that he's able to just barely reach and, climb around to the back of the tractor.
He's on the side of the trailer here. Like, Rex is going down. He's on the interstate at this point, right? So he's checking his mirrors for his blind spots and everything. And so it's kind of coinciding with, Jeff kind of doing all of this at this point.
So he gets around. He's able to get around the front of the trailer to the point where got the fifth wheel right there, right. And so he gets between the trailer and the cab, on the back part of the tractor there, and he's just kind of riding that now. He just kind of sits down, exhausted.
It's also there's some Raiders of the Lost Ark in that too.
Yes, there is.
Just without the Nazis.
Yes, there is. And I mean, Red's despicable enough; he might as well be a Nazi.
I think he probably is a Nazi. Was there a Confederate flag somewhere in this house?
I didn't see one. Remember. I didn't see one there.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But he probably has a swastika tattoo.
Right on his ass.
Probably.
Henry Winkler has Roy Orbison on his ass. JT Walsh has a swastika. You know what? No, I don't want to defame JT Walsh.
JT Walsh doesn't have one. Red has one.
That's right. Anyway, it's nighttime. He gets home. He's turning in, and there's his house, right, and it's this small kind of house, and there's this big.
Well, it's early in the morning.
It is early. Actually, you know what? You're right. It is because they're gonna have breakfast.
The sun isn't up yet, so it's still dark out. And
when she pulls up, like his wife comes out, and she's in a bathrobe.
Yeah, his wife Arlene,
and then she hears that the other guys are gonna come. Not Earl.
Yeah, not Earl.
She doesn't ask where Earl is.
Yeah, his wife Arlene comes out, and his son Deke follows her out. Or does Deke come out first?
I think his wife. I think Deke's second.
Okay, because Arlene tells Deke to go back to bed.
Yes, it's because it's so early.
Yeah,
said he goes back in and plays Wolfenstein. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a few minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, so
he has this large barn garage that's on his property, right?
Yeah.
Again, he's got a huge tractor trailer, right? So I get it.
Yeah.
So he parks it, and then the other guys show up.
Well, he has Deke go and open the barn for him.
That's right.
And so while Deke's going over there to unlock the barn, then he pulls around the side of the barn and stops there, and we realize that Jeff has now moved to the top of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's sitting on top of there so that they can't see him when they're walking by it. And so after Deke opens up the barn, then he comes back around to Red, and Red's got a surprise for him. He gives him a Swiss Army knife, a real Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
And so Deke's happy. He runs back to the house. And now Al and Billy show up.
Yes.
Well, they're not there yet. So as Red is going around, he goes to take some stuff out of the truck, and Jeff climbs from the truck over onto the roof of the barn.
Right. And as he's doing this, it makes a little bit of noise.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so,
Red's
Red hears
is that you, Deke?
Hey, Deke, are you out there? And he doesn't hear anything. So he goes and checks. He doesn't see anything.
Thinks about it. It's probably just an animal.
Well, yeah.
So, he's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So he goes into the barn, and then Al shows up with his truck, with his semi, and Billy shows up with his Firebird. and they pull the truck into the barn. And Jeff was able to there's windows up at the top on the roof of the barn.
Yes.
Like up at the top, and they're boarded over. So he's able to get some of the boards loose and climbs in there.
And gets in there, right? And
so he's just watching all this that's going on.
They're kind of fighting about everything that's happened. It's like, well, he never got in the truck in the first, when I first picked them up. Mm-hmm. And say, oh, we should have just took care of them right away, right then.
Yeah. So they go into one of the storage compartments in Al's truck, and they pull what looks like a body in like wrapped up in a white blankets or white bag, and it's just completely limp.
Yeah,
no movement. And so like, oh, she must have died from the exhaust fumes. And meanwhile, it keeps cutting back to Jeff, and he's getting pissed now.
He's trying to hold it because like he's still hiding up there, and then all of a sudden it just starts the bag just starts flailing, and then they start laughing, right? And so then they get her out of the bag, and and she's bound up, and then she looks up and she sees him.
Yeah,
their eyes meet, they lock.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when the wife comes back up. It's like, oh, you guys want breakfast? Right. She's out. She doesn't come into like the garage or the barn. She's just talking from them to the outside.
Yeah. And, Amy's mouth is duct taped, so she can't yell or anything like that. And she's tied up. And so, there's this trap door in the floor of the barn.
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like it's almost like a storm cellar. It's like a trap door.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not really a whole cellar that's down there. I mean, it's basically just a freezer.
Yeah, like a chest freezer. Yeah, so they take her down there, and then they all go into the house for breakfast.
Yeah, and they put her in there, and then like, and then he gets down there, and he can't get he can't get the trap door open, right? And so he gets out.
He grabs a hammer and he tries to pry it open, but the hammer breaks.
Yeah.
And so then he goes and looks in one of the cars there, and in the glove compartment, there's a gun.
There's a gun.
So he grabs
it. He's going to go politely ask that they open
So he goes
the door so he can have his wife back.
Yeah. So he goes and sneaks into the house, and he's walking by one of the rooms, and Deke's in there playing Wolfenstein. Was it Wolfenstein or Doom that he's playing?
Maybe it was Doom.
Yeah, because Wolfenstein was a PC game. Doom, because he was playing it on a TV. I'm trying to think of, because they're both very similar.
Very, yeah.
Especially that age of it, at that time. Yeah. Well, anyway.
I mean, they're both classic.
Yeah.
Like all-time games.
Yeah. But anyway, so Deke's in there playing.
You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Doom 2.
Okay. He's playing Doom 2.
I kind of want to play Wolfenstein right now, though.
Me too.
I want to kill Uber Hitler. And Nazis.
Yes.
Anyway.
Oh.
So he's sneaking around, and he sneaks into the little kitchen, right? And Red's telling some story, right? And his
back is turned to the door.
The far end of the kitchen or the dining room. And everyone else sees Jeff come in, but Red, right? Or I guess what's his actual
Billy
name?
sees him.
Warren is his actual name. It's Warren. So he turns around, they turn around, and and again, he's trying to play like I have no idea what you're talking about. Now he's kind of more menacing about it than earlier. It's like, I just want my wife, get me in bed, like open up.
Like, tell me where my wife is. Open up that door in there. Give me the keys to that lock. or I'm going to blow your head off. And, Red's wife is really confused by all this because she has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, no, she doesn't.
And then Deke comes in with a rifle, pointed right at Jeff. And so Jeff's trying to tell him,
like, don't do that,
don't do that, kid. Your dad is,
your dad's a murderer.
Like, your dad's a very bad person. I'm not going to hurt you.
It's like, my dad is a whaler, and he taught me how to protect me and my mom.
Mm-hmm. And Red's like, yeah, you do that, son. Just go ahead, pull that trigger.
You pull that trigger.
You squeeze that trigger. And it gets to the point where he's about to shoot him. He's about to squeeze that trigger. And so Jeff pushes the gun away, pushes the rifle.
In the end, Deke is starting to cry a little bit. Deke's not the stoic man his father is.
He's not the murderer that his father is.
He disappoints his dad.
Yeah. So Deke starts, getting hesitant, and so Jeff takes that opportunity to push the gun away from himself, and Deke's finger hits the trigger and ends up shooting Al.
Yeah, he gets kind of like shot in the shoulder.
Yeah,
right. He's not like dead.
No,
yet,
not yet. But yeah, so Deke drops the gun and runs away.
Yeah. So Jeff gets the rest of them. Right, and gets them back into the barn.
Yeah, so he picks up the rifle, so he's got the rifle and the pistol.
Yes,
and gets all of them, including the wife, including Arlene, gets them all into the barn.
Yep, and he's able to get the keys from Red, and then
he gets most of them into the barn because Billy runs. Billy gets out the door and he runs off.
Yes, that's right, and he starts looking for another gun.
Yeah, so. He's down there. He gets Red to open the trap door,
right? And then he sends Arlene down. Now Arlene's always like
no. He gets Arlene to open the door,
and Arlene's looking like, what is this in my husband's garage?
Yeah, it's like, why is there a freezer down here, and why is it locked? So she goes down and she opens up the freezer, and there's Amy, and so Arlene. I'm guessing that if the rest of this movie didn't play out the way that it does, Arlene would be divorcing Red right away.
She would have good calls on that one.
Yeah, she would.
She could have this anyway. She helps. She helps Amy out and kind of get unbound and.
Well, she tries to, but Amy's like, "Don't touch me."
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, very understandable. Very understandable reaction. Because Amy doesn't know that Arlene has no idea what's going on here.
Yeah,
that she had nothing to do with it. And so, Amy gets out, goes back upstairs, and just falls into Jeff's arms.
There's the embrace, the reunion embrace, but they're not out of the woods yet.
No.
Right? So they get them all back down to that little cellar.
So he tells all of them to go down into the cellar, and he shuts the door, knocks a huge tool chest down on top of it, and then locks it.
There's no way Arlene is staying near the Red at this point.
No. So, Jeff tells Amy, there's still one out there. So be careful. They see a little trailer just down the way a little bit, maybe a quarter mile or so away.
They look at the cars right there first.
Yeah. They look at the cars there.
Billy's car.
Yeah, none of the keys.
And they see this little trail that's just down there a little bit, and there's a pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
That's right there.
Yeah. So,
so they're going to run towards that.
They're going to make it to the pickup truck, but they also have to be careful because Billy's still out there.
Yes.
They don't know where he is. Meanwhile, Billy ran around to the back of the house to try to find another gun, and there's a rifle and a shotgun hanging on the wall. So he grabs the shotgun, a pistol grip shotgun. And as Jeff and Amy are running toward the trailer, and Billy comes out and he sees them, so he's chasing them. And they get to the trailer. First they check the truck, and the keys aren't in there. Keys. So they go in the trailer to try to find the keys. Meanwhile, Billy, I guess Billy didn't chase them to the trailer. Billy went into the barn. And he opened up the cellar. And so they're looking for the keys in the trailer, and all of a sudden we see JT Walsh in his semi driving straight toward this trailer.
Even before that, I forgot, before they locked them in the cellar, I love how Red just looks at Chris like, you remember this, boy.
Yeah.
Like, why would you say that at this point?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is going to happen? Potentially. Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, now he's got the look in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He's driving straight at him.
Yeah. So, Amy sees him through the window. And she gets Jeff's attention. And so Jeff grabs her and they go to the side, like over to the end of the trailer. And he just blows right through the center of this trailer.
Yes.
Narrowly missing them.
What happens when whoever owns this trailer gets home?
Yeah. Like, what happened to my home?
I don't have a truck. I don't have a home.
Yeah. Maybe it was Llewellyn's trailer.
Well, I was wondering about that. Like, I kind of wish it was just fart.
Anyway, so
they get the keys.
Yeah, so they were able to find the keys, and while Red is back trying to get turned around, they real quick get over to the truck, but they're getting shot at.
Yes. By Billy.
Yes, because Billy has gotten into his car, his Firebird, and so they are able to get in the pickup, and they take off down the road. Billy's right behind him, and on the other side of him comes Al in his car.
Al.
And Al's got a pistol. Billy's got a shotgun, and Jeff still has the pistol that he found in the car in the barn.
And so they drive off, and this pickup truck has like a max of like 45 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It does not go that fast.
Yeah. So they're on either side of him, and so he tries to hit the brakes so that they either end up shooting each other or just overshoot him. Because they're still going, but Red is right behind him in the semi, so that he's boxed in.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's, trying to sideswipe the cars, trying to run them off the road, and he ends up doing somewhat of a pit maneuver with Billy. And here's the inexplicable 90s car chase. The car has to explode. So Billy, his car flips over and then just blows up. Like nothing caused the explosion. It just blew up.
It flipped over. Like, okay, and it lands like, yeah.
Like it takes a few seconds.
I'm pretty sure Billy's probably not feeling that well, but he's probably
still alive. But then it just blows up.
No, he's dead.
Yeah. So then Red, because of the explosion, slams on the brakes, starts to jackknife.
Jackknifes, and like the trailer separates from the rig.
Yeah. So, and then we see Al just bust through the trailer. His car doesn't explode.
He still flips.
But he does Dukes of Hazzard through the trailer and flips.
We never fully find out his fate. I assume he's just dead. But
yeah,
he somehow outlasted Billy and Earl.
I mean, he had been shot and it hadn't been looked at yet, so he's probably losing some blood out of his shoulder. So if
you have a big trauma like that, like that's just going to exasperate anything that's going on in there. Yeah,
so
he's dead.
If the wreck didn't kill him, then sitting there inside the twisted metal of the car, bleeding out, that would probably kill him. So now it's just, Jeff and Amy and Red.
And they get like on the right side is like almost like a canyon river kind of going down.
Yeah, because they're going across a bridge.
And they turn to the right to go across this bridge. And they can't get any further. They get stuck by, Red, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just, at this point now,
so he's just
slamming their car into the guardrails against the bridge. He's going to drive him off. Which, I got to think at this point, like, I'm not sure what his mindset is.
Yeah.
Because I think it's pretty clear that if he's successful,
then his truck's going to go over too. Because even those big rigs don't stop too easy.
Or even got out. There'd be a lot of questions about why he pushed a car off a bridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his wife, I don't think, is going to testify on his behalf.
I doubt it.
He probably would have been better off just taking his truck and driving off to some truck stop in Canada or Mexico. And
I mean, all of his buddies are dead too, so they can't testify on his behalf.
Anyway, so anyway, the twisted like the metal, the truck now, like Amy gets pinned.
Yeah,
as it's getting rammed
repeatedly by basically the dashboard, comes down and pins her leg into the so she's stuck in the passenger seat,
and so she can't really get out, right? And Jeff's trying to get her loose. He can't do it.
Yeah, so he gets out
and he decides to get into the truck with Red.
Yes. So he pulls an Indy and climbs in the truck and starts fighting Red while he's trying to drive. And he's able to nudge the wheel just enough to where it's more of a glancing blow on the pickup.
Yes, and it turns just enough that it's not like it'd be a danger of like going over the bridge.
Yeah. Well, the pickup.
Yeah, well, yes, the pickup, not the big rig.
The big rig goes over the edge. But it gets hooked on one of the vertical pieces from the guardrail, and one of the posts from the guardrail, and it just gets hooked on the back axle, and so the truck is just dangling.
Yeah, just dangling,
and it's so abrupt that it sends Jeff through the windshield. Yeah, but he's able to grab on so he doesn't fall. And so he's, trying to climb up, and Red is able to climb up onto the back of the cab. And
he's got a chain
on the roof, and he's got a chain that he reaches up there. Yeah, there's a chain that was wrapped around the handle on the side of the truck. And so he is able to grab that.
He's going to just
keep from falling.
To try to like whip.
Oh no! First off, he grabbed it to use it as like a rope to climb up.
Oh, that's right.
And so he gets up on top of the truck.
Now he's trying to.
Jeff is trying to climb up there, but Jeff's now he's using
his grip.
Yeah, now he's using the chain as a whip. So he's got it wrapped around his wrist, so he doesn't drop it. And he's just whipping. He's whipping Jeff's hands as he's trying to reach up. And then Jeff grabs it. He's able to get a hold of the chain.
And then we see Red's face. He's like, oh shit.
When he realizes that it's wrapped around his wrist and he can't get it off of himself. And so then Jeff just gives it a yank.
He yanks it. And you see kind of a swan dive.
Yes. You see Red take a swan dive off of the truck.
No, what's interesting about this, right? We've talked about before, at least maybe the pre-shows. I don't know if we've done it for any movie yet. There's a time when maybe we did it with Die Hard, where you would watch characters completely do their fall to their death. You don't see the entire fall. You see the swan dive and a little bit of it, and then you just hear the thud.
The thud, yeah. So, funny thing here. So, I watched this movie for the podcast earlier today. And I was over at my parents' house, and I was watching it with them. And my mom, who, I mean, like I said, she took me to the movie the first time in the theater.
Yes.
And I guess she didn't remember a whole lot of it. So when Red when he does the swan dive, while he's in midair, my mom's like, "There you go, you deserve that."
Oh, he's gonna get more dessert.
Oh yes, he's gonna get more. So, he's
but able to climb back up to the bridge.
So Jeff's able to climb back up to the bridge, and Red is down. He's on his back on the rocks in the creek bed below, and in the riverbed below, and so
just blood coming out of his head.
Yeah, blood coming out of his head
because
he definitely looks dead. But yeah, so Jeff is able to get. And now, if they don't have a semi trying to run him off the bridge, he's able to take the time to be able to get Amy out of the truck. And so they're, they're embracing, and
then they decide to look over the bridge.
They look over the bridge, and they see him down there.
Look on the rock. And then you kind of see him. His head just turns up a little bit.
Turns his head just a little bit.
It might be just a spasm.
It might be. It very well could be
his last dying look at.
Maybe. But no. Amy doesn't want to take any chances.
She shifts the gear of the pickup, which jars the rig.
And the semi tractor slowly falls. It goes in slow motion, and it just falls, and it's it's too perfect. It falls and just lands right on JT Walsh, just dead center of the grill of this truck. It just falls right on him, smashes him like a pancake because he turned his head.
There's blood coming out of his ears, but hey,
there's no way he was walking away from that.
If he was
not enough,
he'd be a vegetable. Like he'd be not just a quadriplegic. Like he couldn't do anything. No. They just.
I mean, he didn't really get to enjoy his breakfast, so maybe they were just trying to make him a pancake.
Yes. But man, this truck just splat him.
So then they sit down on the side of the road, or like they lean up against the guardrail as the camera starts to pan out a little bit, And yeah, and the credits roll. Just goes right into credits. Just
Would that be
an abrupt stop.
That's the end. Hey,
You know,
he knows what's going to happen. Like, there's probably still a lot of questions from the cops, right?
Yeah,
but like all those guys are dead, right? But they could just easily look at Red's barn.
yeah.
See, like, oh, wow, this dude was a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, when Kurt Russell dies, and sometime he's just gonna look at Amy. He's like, "Remember that time we moved to San Diego?" And he dropped a truck on.
He put a truck on a trucker. Oh.
That would be the story. Like, I mean, they're gonna have some trauma.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're both gonna need some therapy.
Yeah. That's just like, wait, you
you dropped a what?
What?
You dropped a what on a who? Isn't that overkill?
It's not often that someone that's opposite of opposite of Kurt Russell makes him look less of the badass.
Yeah. I mean, the guy already fell 80 feet onto rocks. And then you went and dropped a truck on him.
Just both of those between, the MC Gainey and JT Walsh just they went on style.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, the credits roll and it's in the movie, and
yeah, it's just they drop a truck on JT Walsh, sit down, and then the credits roll. It's like, okay, you're not going to show how they get out of this. Like, do they try to hitchhike again?
Right, yeah, because the pickup truck's not drivable,
and hope that they have better luck this time.
Yeah, they never made a sequel, so we don't know.
Yeah,
maybe the Hills of Ice people pick them
maybe.
Up. But yeah, that's the end of it, and yeah, it's 90 minutes. It's just really it's tightly done.
Perfect length for this story. They don't. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, it keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's a pretty fast paced movie.
It's a fast paced movie. There's not really any scenes where they allowed to let up because
there's not really any filler in there.
Them just driving, and then they introduced one of the villains right away, and yeah, it just continues from there.
Yes, I mean it uses its time very well.
It does.
And yeah, it's a shame that it's not as well remembered as a lot of other movies.
Yeah,
this time
it's tight, and the acting's great. It'll be one of those ones in any afternoon or evening, be an enjoyable one to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like to pop this one in every once in a while. It's always an enjoyable watch.
Hey, many parts is having a fondness of the 90s,
maybe,
and having certain, but I don't know. I think the 90s. We were kind of talking about how you had John Wick redefined the genre, right? There's always kind of a particular popular style of action movies for a given time.
Yeah.
This is not Die Hard looking for a wife or Die Hard in the desert, right? but it's its own type of action movie. I
Mm-hmm.
think the '90s had a lot of smaller, feel action oriented thrillers like this,
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, a lot of them work really well. And I guess there's still some out today, but there's just a few of these that just I don't know, they hit well with me. So
Yep. Me too. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones that every time I watch it, no matter how many times I've seen it, it always, I always think back to that first time I saw it in the theater.
oh yes,
You know,
yeah, I could totally see that.
because
By the way,
it was one of those. It was a movie that I knew nothing about going into it. You know, and I wasn't quite to like. I mean, I enjoyed movies and all that, but I wasn't really quite the movie lover that I am now. You know, I didn't watch movies in the same way that I watch them now.
okay,
You know,
yeah, that's yeah. I mean, given your age at that time, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
so yeah. I mean, it's just it's one of those ones that every time I watch it, I'm reminded of that, of sitting in the theater watching the movie the first time.
I mean,
And it's a
an
nice
R-rated
it's a
action
nice
movie.
memory. You know,
I get
it's
it.
a good memory. So
I so I actually I don't know why all that just made me remember a detail that I noticed the first time when I was rewatching it earlier today. It has to do with the deputy when he's talking with him. He has a Coke can,
yes, he does.
and it's a 1996 Olympics Coke can. And they talk about like like that's a very specific thing that plates where this
Yes,
movie was made.
yes.
Because like Coke, they always have special canning for certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was,
The 96
shows that this movie was
Atlanta
definitely made
Olympics.
in '96 for a '97 release.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I always enjoy this one, and I'll enjoy it again when I watch it again, and I actually be fun to show it to my oldest in a few years when I think he can watch an R-rated action movie like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. So
Let's break down.
that's breakdown. We just broke down breakdown. Anything else you want to say about it?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, if you enjoy what you're hearing, then go ahead and check us out on our social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. That is Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out A&D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. We're also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And if you want to check out some of our movie reviews, some that we've done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do. And you can check out our Letterboxd. That is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And I mean, you can just send us an email. We want to hear from you. There's Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure at gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. But yeah, let us know what did you think of Breakdown? Was it as underrated as we think it was? In your mind. Is it a good example of a good action thriller? Do you hate it? We want to know. We want to know what you think. And we want to hear from you. But if you enjoy what you're hearing here, enjoy the podcast, then show us some love. Go to our social media, give us a like and a follow. Go to your favorite podcast app wherever you're listening to us, and hit that subscribe button. Give us a good rating, a good comment, good review. That's how we move up in the standings and in the rankings and the search and the recommendations, all that stuff. So that we can reach a wider audience and get more people that like to hear us ramble on and on about these movies.
Give you better content.
Yeah. Yeah, and then let us know if there are specific movies you think we should cover. like specific ones you want to hear us talk about, let us know. We've got an ever-growing list of movies that we have that we want to do, and we are more than happy to add, listener suggestions to it. So, yeah, let's get on to what we're going to be talking about next time. We're going to be continuing, since our summer blockbuster series is about to start in a couple of weeks. We got one more that we're doing that's in this sort of, mostly, forgotten or not remembered as fondly as they should mini series that we're working on right now. And this next one I'm actually pretty excited about.
I'm excited about it too. I actually think this really falls into like forgotten about.
Yeah.
Because when we were talking about this was not the first one that was on my mind. And then someone referenced this in a tweet I saw somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah. And it's crazy because this movie stars Denzel Washington and John Goodman.
Which is perfect because we did not reference The Big Lebowski at all during this episode.
No, we didn't.
But now we can.
And in case you haven't figured out what that movie is, just by the naming those actors, we're going to be talking about Fallen. The
Denzel Washington,
John Goodman classic. And it's an excellent movie. I really enjoyed it when I saw it. I've only seen this one once, so it'll be great to rewatch it for the podcast.
I have not seen it, so I'm very excited to do this one.
Okay. So anyway, join us next time for Fallen.